Hello everybody and welcome back to G for G Games for Gamers. I'm your host, Napalm Dawn, and this is the week in Marvel Avengers Alliance, and it is going to be the April 10th edition. So let's dip into some quickie items over here, and then we will talk about the meat of the video, which is Nul and Kuurth, who I will refer to as Team Kuurth. So, big announcement. Unfortunately, for those who get frustrated with PvP, the season has been extended by 3 days. Early on last night, which was Thursday night, it said 7 days left in the season, and by the end of the night, it said 10. So they extended it 3 days, probably to make up for the 2 days of server issues. I think that sucks. That bothers me. It's just more and more stress. But, you know, some people might be happy with it. Honestly, I don't think they needed to extend it. They had this one too close to the previous season to begin with. So, before we talk about the sale items and whether or not they're purchases, a shout out to the channel followers of hello to Jimmy, I am Samurai, I am really rotten, and Jesus. You guys have been asking a lot of questions lately, which is why I'm going to dedicate this video to Team Kul and hopefully answer your questions and give you some pointers that could work out. So, the Oni Breaker, buy or skip. This is a skip. It is a skip because it looks good on paper, but this is a very, very complicated weapon to work with. Why this is complicated is due to the fact that the buff is not active in the first round. You have to get it active in the second round, and the chances of being 100% in the second round are really tough. Now, it's easier if you are running HAIF in your team, because his heal is huge. However, it's still tough to bank on that being perfect. And in an ideal world, HAIF would have to be third in round 1, and your agent would have to be first in round 2. However, if you were lucky enough to get it, you are immune to attrition and damage over time effects. This weapon does melt armor on the whole team, and it has a rather low top end damage. It has a medium length 2-round cooldown, and it is melee, but it's not melee unarmed. So the Oni Breaker, as you can tell, it's old Japanese style war mace. It is fairly common among the Mogu during the Mists of Pandaria expansion of World of Warcraft. This is a blunt bashing object. Chen uses something similar in Heroes of the Storm. The Galactic set is on sale, and this one I would actually say is worth a purchase, but only for 2 of the items. The other 2 are kind of shit. The Abative Helmet is every GG prototype douche's wet dream. I have the GG prototype, I have the Abative Helmet. I shamelessly used it on defense for a little while, but forgive me, my defense isn't really winning a whole lot this season at all, and I keep changing them up, and nothing's really working for me. What it does is it says that you get a Cosmic Energy every turn. It says you get Cosmic Energy when you are struck by melee. It's a quick action. So basically, if you were running something like the Hugins Eye and the T-Bolt Glove and the Abative Helmet, you're looking rather pretty. The Hugins Eye, of course, says you dodge all unarmed melee. This says you reduce the damage from melee. So the things that are melee but not unarmed, you'll reduce the damage, and the things that are unarmed melee, you just straight up dodge unless you're staggered. And then you gain Cosmic Energy. GG Prototype, as long as you're not exhausted, consumes your Cosmic Energy to put out tons of debuffs, and of course the dreaded internal bleeding. The Kinetic Energy Blade has a really snappy counterattack. It goes off of single and area. You do melt armor, and again, you gain Cosmic Energy, which increases your defense and your stamina. This is a really solid item. It works for tech people, and it works for energy people, like the Rectifier and Carolina Dean. The Galactic Crusher, nice top end, but it's extremely hard to pull this off. At 1 energy, you do Staggered, which is really nice. Staggered will shut off the Hugins Eye. And it's 3 rounds worth of Staggered, so unless it's cleaned, it's going to stick around for a while. At 1 Cosmic Energy, you do Dizzy. At 2, you do Off Balance. 3, you do Impaired. 4 is Cornered, and 5 is Exhausted and Winded. It's a little tough to get up to 5, but this is pretty good in the meta for the Staggered, and then the Off Balance, and then eventually the Exhausted, but it's a lottery ticket. It takes a while to get there. The Capacitated Blaster is basically shit. At 3, you add the high crits to the deadly crits, and at 5, you add Opportunity Exploitation. Again, tough to work. However, this set does break apart very nicely, as it doesn't use itself, it uses Cosmic Energy. So if you have some of the Havok set, or other ways of granting Cosmic Energy, like the Cosmic Cardinal, you can piecemeal this suit the way you want. You can run the Evasive Helmet, the Cosmic Cardinal, the Hugins Eye, and the GG Prototype, T-Bolt Glove, the G... So there's a lot you can do for this particular set. I would say, yes, it is worth a purchase for these 2 items alone, and then you kind of get a side of fries with these 2. Here's your hamburger, here's your side of fries, and chocolate shake. Not much else going on in the store. The hats, the sandboxes, the previous Spec Ops gear, and these ISOs. They finally got rid of the old chaotics that were here. I mean, they had the Fat Crystal and the Slab Crystal still here. Okay, so let's talk about Team Kul. People have asked about that, and they want to talk about it. Before I get into that, so here is my offensive and defensive team right now. I'm at about 1,700. Defense is Mystic, the WCD, the Deathly Freeze Ray, the Signpost. These 2 are Magic. That's Magic. I would hope that these guys would be winning more than they are. I have his store ISO because everything she does is melee, except for the Shout. So I thought it might grant him extra turns. Plus, she gives everybody True Strike. It's not really working, unfortunately. I was hoping that his suit would pull the attacks to him, which would cause the Deathly Freeze Ray to proc a lot. It's just not going too well here, unfortunately. I think Nul is becoming a bit of a liability because it's so easy to make him get a case of the shits and just exhaust himself every single turn. But, you know, I had hopes. Here on offense, still the Prism, the Weather Control Device, the Cube, Molly, HAIF, and now I pulled out of the dirt the Hexenjäger. The Hexenjäger gives you Magic Warding, which is somewhat handy. It is not a melee weapon, thank God, for working down the enemy agents. You do Burning, you do Cower, which is nice, and you do Hot Seat. Hot Seat says if you attempt to do magic, you will gain Soulfire, and you will take a pop for using magic. This is good to do against null teams for people who run like the Signpost and things that try like Twisted Gift. Plus, hey, the Cower has come in really, really handy. So she puts out in-caps and stuns. He puts out in-caps on his pre-counter. He puts out a Cower. It's pretty nice. I really thought the Pentecostal Oath would help. Unfortunately, it really is not doing as much as I had hoped. You can see something similar off of Dr. Voodoo, who gets magic warding and everything like that, but yeah, nothing is really stopping Nul and Kuurth effectively, but there is some hope. So let's go ahead and do retrospective Nul, Kuurth, the life of. So Null, Breaker Worlds, all his attacks have a chance to apply Meteor Swarm. You gain a stack of Divine Hammer each round. You preemptively counter those who are unworthy, which is what he gets from doing the shits. The ISO says if you have your melee attacks going out, he has a 15% chance to gain an extra turn. That is why you are seeing quick Null teams. And he is immune to Bleeding, Burning, Chill, Poison, Radiation, and Fear. But he can be Black as Voided because that is Delirium. Fatal Fist can be equipped with Incapacitation, which is douchey. It exploits combos. It puts out Fatal Blow. Ragnarok and Sokkum gives him his hammer. Does combo setup wide open. This is the case of the shits. It makes everybody unworthy, not removable. It can be equipped to energize. And of course, World Breaker applies Meteor Swarm for every stack of Divine Hammer. And everybody cannot dodge. You can equip this with the Bursting ISO so that you hit flyers. So we all know that until his rework, he applies Fatal Fist on his counters, and then eventually he will apply Ragnarok and Sokkum, which changes why he is deadly. Instead of killing you outright, he builds up the stacks that could eventually lead to greater pain. The Meteor Swarm stacks increase on magic, and they increase on ground attacks. If we look over here at Nul and Kuurth, his little buddy, why Kuurth works out so well is because Road to Ruin, which she definitely does, and is one of her counters, is a magic attack. Typically, she opens up with Fear Me, then she goes to a Love Me, she counters range with Road, she counters melee with Stone. Stone will release the rune, and the runes are bordered debuffs. They are unremovable. So Road to Ruin does the one that says attacks against you will hit and will crit. And when it explodes, you become disabled. Fear Me says you have a chance to cower. And your buffs are removed when it explodes. Love Me is one of the really bad ones. And if this explodes, you lose stamina. I think, yes, character stamina is completely drained. I actually had a Kuurth apply this to my Molly. It exploded before Molly's tantrum, but it consumed all the runes. So then when Molly went up to her tantrum, she regened her stamina and was rune-free. So Kuurth, in all of her infinite douchiness, actually set up my Molly to be better off. Weird, but it worked out well. So, of course, Kuurth is immune to a lot of stuff. She is immune to poison, radiation, bio, psychic, delirium, burning, chill, poison, radiation, fear. You can't Black as Void her into her own team. You cannot set her burning, you cannot set her chill, but you can apply Soulfire and Death Frost. You cannot apply a poison and radiation. So really, she's immune to a lot of dots. And she cannot be feared. She cannot be stunned. She cannot have her melee shut down. But it doesn't say that she can't have her ranged shut down, or her buffs and debuffs, or depowered. Okay, so let's get into the counters. Well, one of your best counters that you could possibly run is our old boy Havok. Here he is, Alex Summers, brother of Cyclops. He was brought up in the anti-Molly counter. He used to be a pretty big king of PvP. He went along with Iron Patriot for a sweep group. He also could one-round knock out somebody when his channel energy was available in the first round. Now it's not, so he could channel energy and plasma wave somebody right off the bat. And he always did when he was on defense. He made a resurgence with Mockingbird in the anti-pesty meta, because they would apply the pressure points and they both would exploit it heavily. Mockingbird over here exploits it off of Mocking Blow. If you put out pressure points, Mocking Blow is highly, highly capable of taking somebody out in one shot. And basically, Havok would go ahead and exhaust Pesty, and then the two of them would one-shot him the next round. He works well now because typically Team Kul runs with bruisers, not scrappers. So he gains the whole blaster bonus there. He exhausts the enemy team, he removes buffs, and then he could 2-round one-shot somebody by going into Channel Energy and Plasma Wave. If you have his ISO, he is even better, because then he goes back to his nighttime job of being a stripper that does plasma spheres. His daytime job is to one-shot somebody, his nighttime job is to shut the enemy team down. So he gets to do both when you have this ISO. You don't really need Plasma Wave up that close to each other. You take out the highest priority, and then you just keep the other team off balance. So Havok is really good against Invisible Woman and Molly because you can apply Shield Breaker, and it gives you another exhaust. You can also counter the Mystic with remove buffs over here. This will remove the Mystic. So Havok is really good against them, and he's good against the meta currently. He's showing up on defense lately, and when I see him with Pesty, I flinch, because I know he will Plasma Spheres, and if he goes before I can exhaust him, that's scary in round 2, but, you know, I don't like seeing Havok on the other side. The other counter is run the Blaster Suit from the last PvP yourself. You will not cause a Tactician to get extra turns, but a Tactician can still get an extra turn off of you. It's doing a lot of damage. Of course, you are getting the nice little shield. You can change up your ISOs to do like single target does collateral damage. And you can apply Staggered, which shuts down the Hugin's Eye. You were good against Molly, you were good against Nul, you were good against Kuurth. You don't have Snappy Service, but you can run this suit and have some success. It is still a little bit risky, though. So, what else can you do in the power down counter? There's the depower counter, there's the power down. Well, power down, obviously, you have Havok, you have Heimdall. Heimdall can one-shot somebody in round 2, and he works against everything right now. His no-pan will shut down Molly's tantrum anywhere in the tantrum, the first attack, the last attack, and then it's over. Plus, in round 1, you Vigilance, you Yallarhorn, in round 2, you just ho-fun somebody to death. If you have the Scroll of Aknazak, the Soak, you will seal in your buffs so that they cannot be removed under any circumstance. The Neurotrope also helps accelerate this. The good thing is that Yallarhorn is a guarantee that you gain the Rising Up or the Finest Hour buffs, unlike the Neurotrope or others, which is you may. So he's very good against the counter. You also have Sandman, which is capable of killing somebody in one shot from Hammering Blow. You can apply the Bursting over here. The Gathering Sand, you can apply the Give the Team Crits. And of course, Pound will stack up his Grit. And he stops counterattacks, he stops Protects, which shuts down Protector Agents, and then Hammering Blow will kill somebody. So, classic Sandman, the Soak, and Heimdall is a very, very good team. Plus, look at his immunities. Attrition, all attrition. Electricity and ground, but you are vulnerable to fire and water. So that means he can definitely be hit with the weather control device, but provided you've used it already, it takes 2 rounds for it to come back up. Falcon could kind of help giving your team extra turns, so you may act a few more turns before Molly goes. So that's some pretty good Molly, Nul, and Kuurth counters in the absolute power category. The best thing you can do is simply to take away their toys And you can do that from Captain Steve Rogers, the absolute greatest toolbox in the game. He is the Swiss Army knife from hell. He can shut down everything you want to shut down on the enemy side. You can depower and you can subdue. You can generalize and you can exhaust. Over here, you can wide open, you can fumble, which is great as a Molly counter, because that means every one of her attacks causes a counterattack. You can neutralize, and again, subdue, and this is because of his ISO. And over here, you can impair, you can flank, and you can lock on. So he is everything you want him to be. Plus, the depower is huge. Spiral has a very good depower. The unfortunate thing about Spiral is, unless she gets her extra turn, pretty much that's all you're really ever going to do with Spiral, is go ahead and hit people with Flash Bolt. The good thing is, her ISO says all of her dances are up, so if she gets the extra turn, you have every utility you want. And she has an exhausting stun, and this thing crits like an absolute beast. People are using Spiral with Nul on defense. Not a bad idea. I think Satana would be ridiculously overpowered with Nul on defense. Your other depowered is Fandral. He works good against the Molly meta because 3 stacks of bleeds will make her bleed out very quickly. He can heal and remove debuffs. You can use the tankard on your agent, especially as a tactician, and get an extra turn, and cause him to get an extra turn and combat reflexes. The only thing is, his on guard is not always 100% effective. But hey, he works with pressure points too, so you could use him with Havok, and you've got a good thing to go. The only bad thing is he does not have any capability of doing a shield breaker. And, of course, running Hogun is a risk in the face of other bruisers. And Volstagg is another risk in the face of bruisers because of his scrapper component. But he takes damage like an absolute champ, though. The other depower out there, Karnak is pretty decent. He can weaken an enemy team before they start. You have a depower anti-venom, and you can get a depower over here on hybrid with the debilitating augmented ISO, but this is a single target one. This is good against the Molly meta, the Invisible Woman meta. She won't apply shields. Molly can't do things properly either. She doesn't apply the debuffs. And this team will apply bleed. So honestly, anti-venom and hybrid work out pretty well too. So Chase is going to make a really big appearance in the next PvP, and he will really help with Kuurth. He is one of the most effective Kuurth counters out there now because of his level 1. We saw that she is immune to being immobilized, which means she will always be able to melee, but he can go ahead and set up the inability to use her debuffs, and that is where the meat of where Kuurth is annoying. If you don't have a depower, you can use Fistagon Shock of the Lightning, and she will not be able to do her middle 2 items. He may also counter her attacks and take off her ability to do ranged and pre-apply Shock of the Lightning. She may get off 1 debuff, and then he will counter and apply this, and you don't even have to target her on his turn, which then leaves you to go ahead and shut down the agent or Null. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed some ideas here for countering the Team Kul, and how a lot of what counters Team Kul works against Team Invisible Molly. If you don't like the Hugin's Eye, really invest in things that do staggered. Anything that does opportunist has a 100% chance to cause staggered. I have a ticket into Playdom because the Manvatara says right there, does not trigger protect abilities, but the bruiser suit will tank the Manvatara. I have a ticket in against that. Also in that ticket, I said, excuse me, when I apply friendly magic items to my team and they have Meteor Swarm, I get a stack. Is that intentional? I'm not going to assume it's not. I want them to tell me, yes, we intend for all magic, positive and negative, to cause a stack. The other thing, I think everybody really needs to farm the Caltrop launcher out of the current Spec Ops. This is out of Mission 3. It says that you cannot use ranged abilities, and melee attacks cause bleeding to the attacker and immediately hemorrhage. What that means, because this requires clarification, if you have hit the enemy team with Caltrops and then Molly punches one of the people, Molly will cause that person to bleed and then immediately hemorrhage, somewhat like thorns. So this is really solid. I highly suggest everybody get this because it's not going to come back. And this is your chance to get it, so get it. If you use this and apply Shaken to the entire enemy team every round, that leaves your chase to work on other things. Or maybe if you shut down somebody who's only ranged, your depower people can focus. Really, really good thing. Get this. It's weak damage, but it's very effective. I highly suggest that. I did unfortunately discover that the Hexenjäger over here is... Oh! I defended up! Oh my god! I defended up! Holy shit! What did I defend against? I gotta see this. So what did I defend against? Oh my god. I'm so happy. An ionic emitter? Wow. That's odd. You don't see that too much. Oh, quantum jumper. This guy's a douche. So yeah, he might be attempting to run a Molly here. And, maybe Despair. I mean, you know what? Maybe Despair shut them down and he wasn't able to heal. And maybe Mangle went out too. Okay. Yay. So let's see. He's never been up at Ada. He's done all his seasons. Pretty good heroes there. And I'm seeing some alts. Bonuses are about average. Let's see what he might run on defense. Probably a similar team on defense. Okay. So, hard to predict what he might have used over here. But hey, I defended up. Wow. I haven't gotten really any good defenses this season. But, yeah, so the Hexenjäger is good against Nul and Kuurth when the agent uses a lot of magic. And also, Kuurth uses magic herself on one of her abilities. If you hit them with the hot seat, you apply Soul Fire when they use magic, and they take a shock of damage, about 3k, and then they get Soul Fire on them, which removes their buffs. So I've been using this lately, plus that Cower has come in pretty handy over here. The magic warding is doing somewhat of a decent job, but not that much to write home about. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting on a lot of the videos. Give it a like and a thumbs up if this was helpful, if it gave you ideas, if I hit upon some gear that hopefully you have, and it's not something that I have because I've been a Spartan and been doing this game for years. So, there you go. Plus, you know, Archangel and his Nano Plague, it's not really that good, but it does prevent the enemy team from getting buffed, so you don't get super powered ones. Also in my ticket, aside from magic applying meteor stacks and the Manvatara, I have also noted that there is definitely a bug going on with Big and Fast. If Big and Fast procs when you're not protecting, I disagree with that. I had my Molly going before an enemy Molly. I knew I was going to be able to win because I would tantrum before the enemy Molly. So in round 2, I went into my tantrum. I threw the van. And Molly on the enemy side gained a Big and Fast proc, which I never gained in PvP on offense. She went into her tantrum like shit. So I went out and took a leak. I putzed around the house for a little bit. Came back. My team was alive on death's door. I'm like, doesn't matter. My Molly's going to finish her tantrum, and the enemy team's going to be wiped out. There's nothing they can do about it. I throw a melee attack on the enemy Molly just to work on getting rid of her. The enemy Molly procs a big and fast again and goes right back into her existing tantrum. It's literally like she paused the Molly movie and then unpaused it. It's not like she was like, oh, well, what about caffeinated? No. She still has to go with the raspberry to set up the tantrum, right? Nope. She went right back into her tantrum. It's like she never stopped, and she threw an attack or two, and my enemy team, my team was wiped out. So I mentioned that in the ticket. I think that's absolute garbage. Absolute that big and fast could work that way. It says protect, make it mean protect, or at the very least, don't make it proc off of AoE. If you're not going to protect against the AoE, don't make it proc off the AoE. So there's my little rant for the day. Take care, everybody, and have a good weekend. Weather's nice and warm and springy around here.